thin ribbon of sand in the middle of the Pacific, halfway between Australia and Hawaii, about 10 square miles of land, and nowhere on it higher than a 2-story house. Stand still, and the ocean is on both sides of you at once. And slowly, quietly, it is coming for the land. Around 11,000 people live here on 9 tiny islands most of the world has never heard of. A country you could walk across in a single afternoon. Their airport runway is the town square. Their kids play soccer on it. Tuvalu, the country the sea is trying to swallow. And the people who refuse to let it. The entire country is about 10 square miles of dry land, roughly 26 square kilometers. That is about the footprint of a single big city airport. Spread that across 9 islands, 6 ring-shaped atolls, and 3 low coral islands scattered across the open Pacific between Australia and Hawaii. The highest natural point in the whole nation is only about 15 feet above the sea, 4.5 feet, on a small island called Naulakita. Most of Tuvalu sits far lower than that, around 6 feet on average. There is no hill to climb, no high ground to run to. When people here look for safety, there is no up. In some places, the land is so narrow you can stand in the middle and see the calm lagoon on one side and the open ocean on the other at the very same time. A strip of sand a few feet wide, holding back 2 seas. That ribbon of sand is the whole country. About 11,000 people call it home. The 2022 census counted 10,643, which makes Tuvalu one of the least populated nations on Earth. A whole country that would fit inside the crowd at a single football stadium. This place is so small and so far away that most people cannot even find it on a map. So we are honestly curious. What country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. And here is the twist. This speck of land governs a piece of ocean the size of a large country, roughly 347,000 square miles of sea. On the map, Tuvalu is almost nothing. In the water around it, it is enormous. To understand why the ocean feels so close here, you have to see where these people actually live. And it starts at the strangest airport on Earth. There is one paved runway in Tuvalu, and it runs straight through the middle of daily life. Funafuti International Airport, its code, fittingly, is fun, has no fence around it. So, when no plane is coming, the runway stops being a runway. It becomes the main road, a soccer field, a volleyball court. Motorbikes cross it, and on hot nights when the power cuts out in the houses, families carry mats out and sleep on the open runway. Then, a plane is due. A siren goes up, loud like an air raid warning, and everyone clears off to the edges. The aircraft touches down, and a few minutes later, the crowd flows back on. The busiest strip of concrete in the country is empty maybe 20 minutes a day. Why does one runway matter this much? On an island this thin, flat, open ground is the rarest thing there is, and this is the widest space for miles. The Americans carved it out during the Second World War as a base for bombers, and it still takes up most of the main island of Fongafale. For years, only a handful of flights came each week, small Fiji Airways turboprops. By 2025, almost daily. The runway, about 5,000 feet long, was resurfaced in early 2025 with porous asphalt because the water table sits so high that tides push pressure pockets up under the pavement and had wrecked every earlier repair. Only small planes can land. As one official put it, a reliable runway here is not a luxury. It is survival. That same ocean lapping just feet from this runway will, later in this video, become the country's greatest enemy. But first, step off the tarmac and into the room where this nation actually makes its decisions. And if a video like this is worth spreading, tap the hype button below. Each hype only lasts a few seconds, but it helps this reach a wider audience. At the heart of every community stands a BREATHTAKIng, an open-sided meeting house with no walls to speak of, no stage, no gap between the ones speaking and the ones listening. People sit together on woven pandanus mats and talk until they reach agreement and only then decide. On an island where everyone depends on everyone else just to get through the year, sharing is not a nice idea. It is the rule that keeps you alive, stronger than anything written in law. You feel that same spirit when the Fathelele begins. It is a dance and a song at once. Voices, clapping, and a wooden box drum that starts slow and builds faster and faster until the whole house is moving as one. Each song carries a piece of history, the sea, the ancestors, something that happened in the village. Women dance in bright dresses and flower garlands they weave themselves. And those garlands are not just for festivals. You see them on an ordinary Tuesday at the market, walking to school. Sport follows the same logic. There is kilakiti, a Polynesian take on cricket, and tauluga, a fast game played with two hard balls woven from pandanus leaves. The whole village turns out on the beach or on the runway when no plane is coming. Faith runs just as deep. Around 97% of Tuvaluans are Christian, and about 86% belong to the Church of Tuvalu. So belief threads through the ordinary hours of the day. According to local residents, many villages still keep an evening prayer time when the whole neighborhood goes quiet for a few minutes and the island seems to hold its breath. A culture built on standing together also runs on a few rules that sound almost impossible to outsiders. Starting with a prison you can just walk out of. Tuvalu has one small jail on Funafuti, and most days it holds 1 or 2 people. They are often let out to go to work, and then they come back on their own. Why would anyone stay? Because the walls are not the point. You are in the middle of the Pacific. The ocean is a better fence than anything a guard could build, and there is nowhere to run to that is not more water. Until very recently, this was almost entirely a cash society. One main bank, the National Bank of Tuvalu, and no cash machine at all. The country's first ATM was only installed in 2025. Before that, if you did not carry enough physical money, you had a real problem. There is no army here. The whole country has only about 5 km of paved road, roughly 8 kilometers, and no railway at all. People get around by motorbike, by bicycle, or on foot. And then almost overnight, the outside world arrived. Starlink officially went live in Tuvalu in January 2025. And now, walking the main road, you see a small satellite dish on nearly every roof. One of the most remote island nations on the planet suddenly came online at high speed. One more oddity to leave you with. Tuvalu has never won a single Olympic medal. And at the Paris 2024 Games, the entire national team was one man, the sprinter Carolo Maibuka, one of the smallest Olympic squads on Earth. For all its quirks, life here keeps time with the sea. The same sea that fills the cooking pot is also slowly measuring the island. The ocean here wears 2 faces, the hand that feeds and the tide that erases. To feel that rhythm, spend a single day on the island. The day does not start with an alarm clock. It starts with the sound of the waves and the seabirds. Men push canoes out past the reef, reading the wind and the color of the water before they drop a line. Somewhere, a small fire is already going. Breadfruit roasting on coals made from coconut husks. Children walk to school barefoot or in sandals worn thin, in no particular hurry. There is no traffic, no horns. Many people walk everywhere because everywhere is close. And in the afternoon, the whole village drops a gear. Kids on the sand, grown-ups sitting in the shade of a porch to catch the breeze, older people watching the sea turn orange as the sun goes down. It is the exact opposite of the life most of us are racing through, and that is precisely why it stays with you. School matters here. Primary and secondary education are free, and the literacy rate is very high, close to 99%. Children learn math, science, and English, and they learn Tuvaluan too, because the language is how you keep being Tuvaluan. Serious illness is harder. Medical care is limited, centered on the small Princess Margaret Hospital in Funafuti. And anything major means flying to Fiji or New Zealand. Even the houses tell the story. Homes were once fail, open on all sides to the sea wind, roofed with palm and pandanus. Many now are concrete with tin roofs because every sheet of that metal had to travel thousands of miles by ship. When materials are that hard to get, you do not knock a house down, you fix it, and you hand it to your children. On a strip of coral, this thin, even dinner is a small miracle. So what does a nation with almost no soil actually eat? On poor coral sand, only a few plants really thrive. The coconut palm, breadfruit, pandanus, and polaca, a swamp taro grown in dug pits that trap fresh moisture. And people here use nearly all of the coconut, the water, the flesh, the oil, and the dried husk that becomes the charcoal for the fire. Nothing about it is wasted, because on an island this small, waste is a luxury no one can afford. The sea, though, is the real kitchen. Tuna, parrotfish, red snapper, octopus, grilled over those coconut husk coals until the skin turns golden. Some of it simmered in coconut cream. A classic dish is palusami, taro leaves wrapped around coconut cream and baked soft. But because almost everything else arrives by ship from Fiji or Australia, the supermarket is another world entirely. One visitor filmed imported Atlantic salmon selling for around $50 and a 5.5-pound bag of chips, about 2.5 kilos, for roughly 15. And now and then, the island runs out of something and waits for the next boat. We are only halfway through, and Tuvalu has already handed us a lot. A runway that doubles as a playground, food grown on coral, a whole country partly funded by 2 letters of the internet. Which part has surprised you the most so far? Tell us below, because everything on that plate comes from the sea or the palm, and that bond with the ocean goes back 3,000 years to the day the first canoes arrived. Tuvalu was born from the sea. Over millions of years, undersea volcanoes pushed up above the water, and coral grew in a ring around each one. Then the volcano slowly sank back down, and what stayed behind was the ring of coral wrapped around a quiet lagoon. That ring is an atoll. Today, Tuvalu is 6 of those atolls plus 3 low-reef islands. All of it, the ghost outline of mountains that are no longer there. The people came far later, and their story is just as remarkable. The ancestors of today's Tuvaluans were Polynesian navigators who set out from Samoa and Tonga about 3,000 years ago. Crossing open ocean in double-hulled canoes, they found these pinpricks of land by reading the stars, the direction of the wind, and the rhythm of the swells against the hull. No maps, no compass, just knowledge passed down and trusted with your life. The name Tuvalu means 8 standing together, the 8 traditionally inhabited islands. To outsiders, it was something else. British sailors called this the Ellis Islands through the 19th century, and in 1892, it became a British protectorate. Then, after a referendum, Tuvalu separated from the neighboring Gilbert Islands and became fully independent on the 1st of October 1978. Almost everyone here speaks Tuvaluan with English as the official language alongside it. Their ancestors crossed an open ocean to build this home. Today, that very same ocean is beginning to take it back. When a king tide rolls in, the highest tide of the year, the water does not just wash over the roads. It rises up through the ground itself, bubbling out of the earth in the middle of the island. And when it does, it poisons the fresh water, and it kills the pulaka pits, the swamp gardens families have fed themselves from for generations. The waves chew at the shoreline. Some communities have already begun to talk about moving. Then, there is the image the whole world saw. In 2021, Tuvalu's foreign minister, Simon Kofe, recorded a speech for the COP26 climate summit. He stood in a dark suit at a wooden lectern, and the camera slowly pulled back to show he was standing knee-deep in the sea on a spot that used to be dry land. He was giving a speech about disappearing coastline, while the coastline disappeared under him. No chart, no graph, no statistic ever said it more clearly. The numbers underneath that image are stark. According to NASA and the United Nations, the sea around Tuvalu is rising about 1/5 of an inch a year, 5 millimeters, nearly 1.5 times the global average. It is already about 6 in higher than it was 30 years ago, and it is projected to climb another 8 in or so by 2050, when much of the land and the country's key infrastructure would sit below the average high tide. And fresh water is the quiet emergency. Tuvalu has no rivers, no lakes, no streams, none. Almost all the water people drink is rain, caught off the roof and stored in a tank beside the house. In a long, dry season, every drop has to be counted. It is a heartbreaking picture. But here is where the story gets complicated, because not every scientist agrees that Tuvalu is vanishing at all. In 2018, a research team from the University of Auckland published a study in the journal Nature Communications, and the finding surprised almost everyone. Between 1971 and 2014, the total land area of Tuvalu did not shrink. It actually grew by about 2.9%. 8 of the 9 atolls got bigger, and nearly 3/4 of the individual islands expanded, even as the sea around them rose at twice the global rate. How is that possible? The answer is in the coral. Storm waves break up coral and pile the broken sediment onto the islands, rebuilding on one side what the ocean strips away on the other. These are living islands, not slabs of rock, and they can shift and grow. But hold on, because this is the part that gets twisted online. The scientists themselves were blunt. Land still being there does not mean it is still livable. Salt is creeping into the fresh water. King tides still flood homes. Storms are getting fiercer. The ground can survive, and the life on it can still become impossible. This is not proof that climate change is a hoax. It is the reason the debate exists at all. And that debate runs right through the audience watching this. Some people are sure Tuvalu is being erased. Others are sure the danger is exaggerated to attract aid money. The truth sits in the uncomfortable middle. The land may hold, but the life on it is more fragile than ever. So, which is it to you? A nation being erased by the sea, or a story the world blows out of proportion? And the bigger question, if this were your home, would you fight to stay, or would you go? Tell us below. Because whatever the science says, the people of Tuvalu are not waiting to find out. They have already secured an escape hatch no country has ever had before. In 2023, Australia and Tuvalu signed something the world had never seen. The Falapili Union Treaty, which came into force in August 2024. It is the first bilateral climate migration treaty on the planet. Under it, each year, 182 Tuvaluans are chosen by random ballot to move to Australia and settle there permanently, to live, work and study with no need to have a job lined up first. A legal doorway out, open before the water forces anyone through it. Then the first ballot opened in the middle of 2025, and the response told you everything. More than 8,150 people registered. More than half the entire population of the country competing for those 280 places. Let that land for a second. Over half a nation raising a hand to leave. Not because they stopped loving home, but because the water might not wait for them. There is a price on the ticket. In exchange, the treaty includes a security clause. Tuvalu must reach mutual agreement with Australia before entering any defense or security arrangement with another country. Some commentators call that the real cost of the safety net. And for a Tuvaluan, leaving is never just changing your address. It means leaving the graves of your ancestors on that low strip of sand, leaving your mother tongue in the village hall, the coral paths you learned to walk on. Many still choose to stay, not because they are not afraid of losing it, but because they want to keep the place that made them. But even as some pack their bags, Tuvalu is attempting something no nation in history has ever tried. It is refusing to disappear, even if the land does. In 2023, Tuvalu amended its constitution to declare that the state and its sovereignty will exist permanently, even if the physical territory is one day swallowed by the sea. It is the first time a country has written directly into its founding law that losing your land does not have to mean losing your nationhood. Read that again. A country legally deciding it will still be a country with or without the ground. To make that more than words, Tuvalu is building the world's first digital nation. The idea was announced at the COP27 summit in 2022 when Simon Kofe appeared as a digital version of himself in the metaverse. The plan is to create a full digital copy of the country, maps of every island, historical records, the language, the heritage, even government services. The goal is that the memory, the identity, and the sovereignty survive intact, even if the islands themselves do not. And none of this means life on the ground has stopped. Projects to raise land, reinforce the shoreline, and improve infrastructure are moving ahead with international help. Children here are learning to code and use technology. And in the same week, they are learning their mother tongue, the Fatel, and how to read the water the way their ancestors did. A country backing itself up in the cloud is a genuine world first. But paying for all of this, the schools, the servers, the seawalls, comes down to a secret hidden in just 2 letters. The single most valuable thing Tuvalu owns is not under its soil or out in its waters. It is 2 letters, .tv. When the internet's address system was handed out, every country got its own ending, and Tuvalu was assigned .tv. By pure coincidence, that is also the abbreviation for television, and that turned a tiny nation's web address into prime digital real estate. This, by the way, is the web domain we promised you back at the very start. Here is what those 2 letters are worth. Licensing .tv brings Tuvalu somewhere around 7 million Australian dollars a year, roughly 5 million US, and potentially up to 10 million under newer deals. That is about 1/12 of the entire national income. In 2019, it made up more than 8% of all government revenue. Money that goes straight into schools, clinics, and infrastructure. To put it plainly, a slice of the internet helps keep the lights on in a country the ocean is trying to erase. And you almost certainly use it without knowing. Twitch, the biggest live streaming platform in the world, owned by Amazon, lives at twitch.tv, running on Tuvalu's national domain. Hundreds of thousands of websites use TV thanks to the streaming boom. Tuvalu has been leasing it out since the late 1990s, and the very first payment, about $1 million, helped cover the fee to join the United Nations in the year 2000. The domain is now managed by GoDaddy after years with VeriSign. A patch of the internet funding a patch of the Pacific. But it is far from the only way this nation of 11,000 keeps itself afloat. The biggest pillar of the economy is not on the land at all. It is in that huge stretch of ocean. Tuvalu sells fishing licenses, the right to catch tuna in its waters, roughly 350,000 square miles of them, to fleets from Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, and the United States. The 2025 to 2026 budget expects around 39 million Australian dollars from this alone, an enormous share of an economy worth only about 65 million. The fish swimming through Tuvalu Sea are worth more than almost anything on its land. Then, there is a quieter kind of security. Back in 1987, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand helped Tuvalu set up the Tuvalu Trust Fund, a national savings account invested for the long term. Today, it holds around 256 million Australian dollars and reliably covers about 15% of the yearly budget. It is the rainy day fund that lets one of the world's smallest economies ride out shocks that would flatten it otherwise. Then add the money from .tv plus remittances sent home by seafarers and by Tuvaluans working in New Zealand and Australia, which reached around 7% of the economy in the early 2020s. Layer in international aid, and you see the real strategy. A tiny country stitching together many small streams of money into something that holds. Even selling postage stamps was once a serious earner, though that has faded. Money keeps the country running, but reaching it or leaving it is a challenge all its own. Getting to Tuvalu means going through Fiji, full stop. A small Fiji Airways turboprop, about 2.5 hours in the air, and a round-trip ticket that runs somewhere near $900 US. And once you land, the main island gives you about 5 miles of paved road. To reach any of the other 8 islands, you wait for a passenger ship that sometimes sails only once a month, and then you spend anywhere from hours to days out on the open Pacific swell. That isolation feeds one of Tuvalu's favorite titles, the least visited country on Earth. Except it is not quite that simple. The tourism office says around 3,000 visitors a year, But one traveler did the math on airline seats and figured the real number is closer to 14,000. Because most of those passengers are Tuvaluans flying home, not tourists. And as of 2025, the actual least visited crown has passed to Somalia. Tuvalu keeps the slogan anyway, mostly because it works. It pulls people in. Since everything comes by ship or plane, prices stay high, and the island can genuinely sell out of basics when a boat runs late. Visitors are told to bring enough cash in Australian dollars and to expect a trip for people chasing somewhere far off the map, not a resort with a swim-up bar. If videos like this are worth making to you, places almost no one on Earth ever gets to see, a like and a subscribe honestly help. They keep us going and help us reach more people. Hard to reach, easy to underestimate, but the real story of Tuvalu was never the sand or the runway. It is the people who refuse to let it go. Here's the thing outsiders miss. Tuvaluans have carried their nation across the ocean before. Back in 1946, the people of the island of Vaitupu pulled their own money and bought an island, Kioa, over in Fiji. The first settlers arrived in 1947, and to this day, their descendants still speak Tuvaluan and keep the old culture alive on foreign soil. In June of 2026, Tuvalu marks 80 years since that purchase. That diaspora is living proof of something quietly radical. A nation can travel with its people. It does not have to stay on the map. That is why the elders push the young ones to go and study abroad, to become engineers, doctors, scientists, and then to come home and help keep the island alive. Keep the language. Keep the fate look going. Because they believe a people only exist as long as the next generation still remembers who they are and where they came from. Some places are remembered for their scenery, some for their history. And then there is Tuvalu, remembered for a people who never once stopped loving and defending their home, even as the sea threatened to swallow it whole. Which leaves us and you with one simple, impossible question. So what is this place in the end? A ribbon of sand 10 square miles wide and 15 feet tall, holding 11,000 people who refuse to be small. A nation fed by the sea and by 2 letters of the internet. Preparing for the day the land might be gone with a climate visa, a new constitution, and a country saved to the cloud. The ground under your feet feels permanent. So did theirs. The land is a ribbon of sand, barely above the waves. But the thing that actually holds this country up is thinner still, and it cannot be flooded. It is memory and the people who carry it. So their everyday question becomes yours. If your home were slowly disappearing, would you leave to start again somewhere safe, or stay and hold the place that made you? If you want to keep going, another vanishing corner of the world is waiting right here.